We have been living with COVID-19 for almost a year now, and there are new variants of COVID-19 that are more contagious and spreading globally, including here in the United States. In today's To Your Well-Being, we want you to know about the variants, and we want you to be able to ask your questions as well. Wesley Long Hospital's Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Jeffrey Hatcher, is joining us. And so, first and foremost, let's just talk about how many new variants of COVID-19 are out there.
The major variants right now are the UK strain, the South African strain, and there's also a Brazilian strain.
Okay, so at least 3 that we know of, and who knows what else may be out there that's getting ready to do that. So which ones have already reached North Carolina?
So that's hard to say. Right now, by the CDC estimates, the UK strain makes up about 1 to 2% of the population of the viruses that are in the United States. And that's expected to increase to it being the predominant strain by mid-March.
Being the dominant strain by mid-March?
Yes.
Phasing out the other COVID strains that we have been worried about all year long?
That's correct.
Okay, so what makes this particular strain more contagious?
So it has a mutation in the S protein, the spike, and that spike mutation allows it to bind to cells much more with much more affinity, so that it grabs onto them and holds onto them much more strongly.
Okay, and we've all seen that like a coronavirus picture where it's the ball and those little red spiky things, and that's what it grabs onto, yes?
So that part is grabbing onto a receptor that's on human tissue, especially in lung tissue.
Okay, so do we need to then wear more than one mask? Because we've heard about this, over the last week and a half, that we need to wear more than one mask in some instances, or is one mask enough with this new variant?
Yeah, so the CDC sort of wavered on this. They came out and said maybe 2 masks is better, but then they backtracked and said really just using better masks, one better mask is probably the better way to go. So having a good medical grade mask is probably the best thing you can wear right now.
Okay, so, and all of us, of course, have been buying masks off the shelf. We've been buying them online. We've been making them ourselves. Mm-hmm. And so if we have those homemade masks, then we should probably double up?
Probably. I think that the quality of the homemade masks has been really variable. There are lots of great homemade masks, including ones that were sewn so that you could slide a filter into them. But that's part of the problem, is that the quality of them is variable. And so we don't, if you're looking for a standard or a guideline from an organization like the CDC, they're going to try to refer you to something that has some standardization around it.
Okay. And what about the symptoms for this variant? Are they the same?
Exactly the same.
So the same kind of congestion, fever,
Yep.
Body aches?
Cough. And then, for some people, it's loss of taste and loss of smell.
Mm-hmm. Now, are some people at higher risk of complications because of the new variant?
Not necessarily. So the risk of complications between the wild type and the variant is exactly the same. There is some question that this UK variant might have a higher risk of mortality, but I think it's unclear yet as to whether that's because there are more cases from it, or if there's something different about the virus that is increasing that risk of mortality.
Okay, now what about the testing? So is the testing process the very same that we've been seeing over the last year?
So the testing process is exactly the same. The trick is that the testing doesn't tell you what kind of virus you have. So to find that out, the state or the county and the state take random samples of tests that are done and send them off and do testing on them to do some sort of epidemiological legwork to figure out what kinds of viruses are circulating in our communities.
Okay, so not every single person who gets a COVID test, their test won't be pulled to find out whether they have the variant or not.
That's exactly right.
Okay, which is, again, another reason why we kind of can't nail down which variants are all here right now. Okay, so if there's a spike in COVID cases or hospitalizations, would it be then from the new variant, or people kind of letting down their guard and not following the 3 Ws, or a mix of all of that, or?
Right now, it would probably be more likely from the 3 Ws. And so we've seen a big drop off in the number of cases we've had from a peak of almost 300 people in the Cone Health System in early January to under 140 today. And a lot of that is that we're not having big social gatherings like we were having in the late fall. So no more Thanksgiving, no more Christmas. Hopefully we won't have a big spike from Super Bowl parties. And then our next sort of major gathering after that would be Easter.
Mm-hmm. So will the current vaccines, because so many people are getting their first and second dose, will these current vaccines work against the new strains that are coming in?
Yes. So the two vaccines that are most commonly used in our community, the Pfizer vaccine and the Moderna vaccine, both have efficacy against the newer strains. As far as the African strain, we think that it has efficacy against those. There is one of the other vaccines, that AstraZeneca's vaccine has recently been shown to not have good efficacy against the South African strain. So that's been pulled out of the trials there in South Africa.
Okay, and so are there other steps that we should take to protect ourselves from catching or spreading this new strain?
So it's sticking to our 3 W's, which is wait 6 feet apart, wash your hands, and wear your mask.
We've heard those a few times.
I bet you have.
A few times in the last year. Okay. Dr. Hatcher is going to be with us until 6 o'clock. And so in this next segment, he's answering your coronavirus and vaccine questions. Here's how you get those questions answered. You text those questions to 336-379-5775. Again, this is a text only, so do not call, and we'll be right back.